Well, welcome again to Way of Wisdom, and we're looking at chapter 15 of the book of Proverbs, and we're talking about two ways today, and Proverbs is like that. Oftentimes it'll give us two ways to contrast one way with another way, or one man with another man. Proverbs has a lot of contrasts, but listen to these verses and the contrasts that they produce. In verse 24 is where we'll begin through 27. He says, "The way of life winds upward for the wise, that he may turn away from hell below. The Lord will destroy the house of the proud, but he will establish the boundary of the widow. The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but the words of the pure are pleasant. He who is greedy for gain troubles his own house, but he who hates bribes will live." One other contrast in verse 29, "The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous." Well, look at those contrasts. The one who troubles his own soul, troubles his own house, and the one whose way is upward. Verse 24, "The way of life winds upward for the wise." In other words, you're growing in your spiritual life, and you're turning away from hell below. You're on your way to heaven, but you're more heavenly minded also. Your life is characterized by the direction that your soul is headed. And your soul is not headed, if you're a believer in Jesus, your soul is not headed for hell. Your soul is headed upward. And so it says the way of life winds upward for the wise. But look at verse 25. "The Lord will destroy the house of the proud. He will establish the boundary of the widow." So here's a poor widow. She's just barely making it, but God says, I'm going to watch over her. I'm going to establish her boundaries. But the person who is wise, who is proud and wicked will eventually end in ruin. The Lord will destroy the house of the proud. He's going to watch out for the widow, but he will destroy the house of the proud. "The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but the words of the pure are pleasant." So even the thoughts of the wicked man are an abomination to the Lord. But if your heart is pure, then your words are going to be pleasant. The words of the pure are pleasant. We talked about that last time, speaking words to others that would minister life and be a blessing to them. "He who is greedy for gain troubles his own house, but he who hates bribes will live." In other words, if you're greedy in life, you're going to bring trouble on your family. If your life is motivated by a greed for money, and if money is your God, it will bring trouble on your family. And the contrast is, "But he who hates bribes will live." In other words, I'm determined, and if you're a man of wisdom, you're determined to do things right. You're not going to cut corners. You're not going to take bribes because you're greedy of unjust gain. So again, the contrast, he who is greedy of gain troubles his own house. Especially men, think about this. You're out there in the business world. You're making a living. You're having to produce things. You're having to earn money or produce money. But don't be greedy for gain. It'll bring trouble on your house. And what is more important than having a blessed house? So don't be greedy, it says, for gain, or you'll trouble your own house. Hate bribes. Hate the wrong way of doing things, and you'll be blessed by the Lord. The last proverb I want to give you today is verse 29. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. God delights when you pray. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he delights when he hears the prayer of the righteous. But he hears the prayer of the righteous. So be one who communes with God today. The Lord hears the prayers of the righteous. Well, there's two ways. There's the way that is greedy for gain. There's the way of the proud. There's the way that tries to live without God. And then there's the other way, the way of the pure, the way of the righteous, the way of the wise. So be one of the wise people by honoring God in your life, and know that the Lord hears the prayer of the righteous. You can talk to God today and be effective as you walk with him along this way of wisdom. God bless you. Amen.